Okey-dokey. Well, welcome back, everybody. We are back in public session. I appreciate everybody's patience who stuck it out. I hope y'all play cards or tic-tac or entertaining. We have resolved the matters before council in executive session and obviously took no action in executive session. But now coming back on to the record in public session, we move on to the next item on the agenda, which is old business, a proposed land sale involving 201 West Main Street, an ordinance approving the execution and delivery of a purchase and sale agreement, ordinance 3-23-02. Do I hear any motions concerning this ordinance?
What was it,
23-02?
Yes,
Thank you, Councilor Miller. We have a motion to approve on second reading 3-23-02. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. All those in favor of approval of 3-23-02 on second reading, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. And the ordinance passes unanimously on second reading. Thank you, City Council. All right, moving on to new business. We have ordinance 5-23-01, which is a ordinance concerning redistricting in the city of Laurens, which would revise city council district lines. As all of you are aware, we are required to participate in the census every 10 years. We did that in the wake of receiving the data from the census. City council held a redistricting workshop in which we met with representatives from the Department of Fiscal Affairs in Columbia and discussed the process of redistricting and the things that the law mandates must be our priorities and the priorities that were outlined by council, which are, I believe, I heard council express a desire to sort of clean up our redistricting or our district map to make recognizable neighborhoods so that there's a logic and a natural sense of cohesiveness and community within individual districts, all while respecting the diversity of our city and the legal requirements regarding maintaining the diversity of representation on city council. These districts are much less gerrymandered, to use a hot button word, I guess, than our current districts. And they reflect an intention to comply with the law. South Carolina is no longer a pre-clearance state, meaning our plans are not submitted to the Department of Justice for approval by the Department of Justice, nor does the Department of Fiscal Affairs say you can do this, you can't do that explicitly. However, they do give input as requested as to what they believe and recommend would comply with federal law. And so we came up with a proposed redistricting plan, submitted that to the Department of Fiscal Affairs, and the map that you see before you represents the input not only of the very hard work of Madison Workman and our city administrator in coming up with the draft version of the map, but fiscal affairs input and revisions to that map. So that is sort of what we have before us. Do I hear any motions concerning first reading of 5-23-01? I'm going to ask that you hold that until discussion. Do we have a motion, though, for this?
Motion we accept 5-23-01 as presented.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second? We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion, Ms. Sullivan?
Yes. Thank you. All right, I would like to request for a re-examination of redistricting lines for the city of Lawrence. Request from Councilwoman Alicia Sullivan, representative of District 2. In regards of responsibility of redistricting per South Carolina Fiscal Affairs, as you just noted. Entity responsibility of council, constitutional requirements for redistricting, secondary to the home rule, drawn by council. Follow constitutional and statutory principles as stated by the mayor and traditional redistricting principles. Also, the city of Lawrence has proposed new developments and annexation and asking that this map include the areas concisely. I cannot see it on this one. 6, the city of Lawrence has updated electoral information that should be included into the process and issued along with the demographics and proposed by the mapping. If this information is already included, please disregard. And lastly, I would like to request a re-examination pertaining to the redistricting process. The process should include information of our recent electoral count, annexation information, the new proposed subdivision areas, and clear and concise copy of the mapping with all listed streets and neighborhoods are more visible before voting on districting lines. Our Councilwoman Alicia Sullivan would also request to be included into the drafting of the mapping process if this process took place during the week of April 24th. I was not in attendance due to a planned vacation. I did not receive a notice regarding the drafting of the maps. I received a notice concerning the budget workshop and requested meeting notes, which I kindly received. This request is to inform the public of my concern regarding the redistricting process. This is not to place blame on anyone or attack anyone. It is simply to provide in writing my concern and requests going forward. In closing, after viewing the map, it displays District 2 with less areas where citizens reside and more areas of industrial parks. To make District 2 equal to Districts 1, 3, 4, 5, and 6, the draft of the map shall be re-examined and redrawn. Because of the growth of the city, the map should display a need for additional representation, not a decrease in representation. Please add this request to our May 16, 2023 minutes. A copy of this request will be forwarded to the local and state NAACP to provide transparency concerning the possible change in demographics of District 2. Thank you kindly, Councilwoman Alicia Sullivan. That's it.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. I believe some of the points that you raised may be addressed by our city administrator, Mr. Delgado.
I think your points are good. We held a workshop last year. I started working on this map based on the input from the workshop, which was to kind of make the neighborhoods look cohesive. I ran through the data, and I submitted that to Fiscal Affairs for approval, and they did not approve it. They taught me more about the principles, and they did this draft right here. So basically, you can't take current election results and put that into this process. You have to take the 2020 census data, and you have to take census blocks. So if you see, like, We're Miss Campbell, District 3. It looks like an elephant's trunk. That's just a census block, and there's nothing we can do to break that up. It's just the way, more people need to participate in the census, basically. That said, there's only so many ways we can divide this up and not infringe on minority districts and tamper with election results. And if we were to change this in any form, we'd probably have legal repercussions. This comes from Revenue and Fiscal Affairs. This is the draft that they came up with. I explained our input and what we wanted, but this is the legal advice that they gave me.
I understand. I just wanted this noted into the minutes and ask you to receive it as information, as I will be providing this information to local and state voting affairs.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. You're welcome to provide that to anybody that you want to. I want to note for the record, though, that the land mass that you see, I think one of the points that you raised is that it appeared that District 2 is smaller. And it's skewed toward, I guess, the industrial park. What you have to understand, though, is the amount of land does not equal the number of people. Maybe the best way of explaining that is look at the state of Wyoming. It's massive. There aren't that many people that live there. On the other hand, New York City is relatively small, but it's got more people than the state of Wyoming. So just because geographically on a map looking from space, District 2 might look like it is smaller, it doesn't mean that this map means that you or any other member of council wouldn't be representing just as many people. In fact, the guidance that the Department of Fiscal Affairs gives in coming up with these maps reflects the fact that there can't be too much of a change in population. In fact, all of the districts should have roughly equal numbers of residents. So if that is your concern, that is reflected in this map. It also takes into account the fact that you can't have too drastic a change in the racial makeup of the population represented. It would be illegal for us to make a change which would, on the basis of race, redraw a district so that it was no longer a minority seat if it had been one previously. All of this guidance takes into effect all of the things which can and must, by law, be included in this map. And so, respectfully, there's no reason to have an independent organization like the Department of Fiscal Affairs that is not controlled by the city of Lawrence redraw the map that they just drew for us.
Yeah, point of information, because I don't want you to go off on the branch that I didn't invite you into. I want you to, that's why I put it in writing so it will be here, reference the fact that I didn't say anything about race. I said neighborhoods and versus industrial area, but it is written in this request and you will have a copy of it so you can reference back to it. And also I leave a copy with Mr. Delgado as far as sending it to the remaining personnel, as I just stated. It has nothing to do with the race, it's the citizens where they reside.
I understand that that's not...
Secondly, if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, this map does not display, I can hardly see the street names, so I will ask for an additional request of the areas of location for each district, the population in each district, and that way I will know exactly what I'm voting on. This is just concise.
To your point, Ms. Sullivan, please understand, I understand that race wasn't specifically something you identified. It is something that federal law identifies.
Yes, sir, but I didn't raise the question.
My point is that we are complying with federal law
Yes, sir.
with this map.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So
I have all that, I'll bring it for the next meeting.
Thank you. This is just for information.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any further discussion?
The new developments, they're not included in this, are they?
Thank you, Ms. Lattimore. No, ma'am, because they can't be by law, because those people don't, there are no houses that exist. They couldn't have participated in the census. We are bound by law to the data that we received from the Census Administration. So in that respect, Ms. Sullivan's request is not possible or legal.
Ms. Mayor, may I raise another point?
Yes, ma'am.
The information that I have stated in here is because it's subject, and it's subject to be listed in the area of District 6 or 5, if I'm not mistaken. So the information I'm requesting is subject to what the lines will look like. Secondly, because we're after an election, we are not pressed for time to update in this line, the redistricting lines.
Ms. Sullivan, I want to be clear. We are bound by the census data. The census occurred in 2020.
Yes, sir.
Anything that happened in this most recent election cycle is not legal to include in this map.
No, I'm not stating to include it. I'm saying where we are after the election. It's stated in federal law that it cannot be done prior to an election, but now.
Ms. Sullivan, what we're voting on is a map based upon census data and only that.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to make the statement, we do need to get this done. It is from 3 years ago. We do need to get this done. I know we're not pressed on an election, but we don't know that we're not pressed for an election. We don't ever know. I can promise you, Lawrence District 55 School District didn't think they were going to have 3 people up for election coming in August. They didn't know that a few months ago. We don't know what's going to happen in a few months. We do need to do this. In my opinion, we are behind. We need to get this done. It's just 3-year-old data, and we need to get it done, and we need to go ahead and pass it.
Councilor Lara, I agree with you. We need to get it done, but I would like to have the concise information pertaining to each district before I vote on it.
Not what I was stating about. That's not what I was, my statement had nothing to do with that. My statement had to do with the fact you said that we shouldn't be pressed because we just had an election. That's not true. We should be pressed. We're behind, in my opinion. We should be pressed.
I just emailed council the whole report from RFA. It has all those breakdowns for you. So I think that'll answer a lot of your questions. I should have included it in the packets, and apologize. So.
I mean, Mayor, we've got people, that lives in different areas and votes in different wards. And a lot of people don't know who the council members are. And we need to get all that straightened out too.
Thank you, Mr.
A lot of people, I get people that vote for me, I get people in my area that votes in his. I got some of mine that votes in Ms. Miller's ward.
Right.
It's so screwed up. People don't know where.
That's right. That's right. We need
Ms. Vaughn,
information.
if I may just, to your point, this map, to the extent we were able to give that input to Department of Fiscal Affairs, reflects our desire to clean up those districts, so you don't have that
That's why
situation.
I'm bringing it up.
Yes, Ms. Miller?
But we have to realize one thing, yes, I agree with what Martin said, we are three years behind since we had the census. However, to what you said, John, it haven't just not gotten like this because here lately with the growth in the city of Lawrence, it's very transit. And we cannot say that because the people that live in my district not vote for you, we can't say when people move, they got to take upon themselves to see who district they live in. But because we have not approved the map, the redistricting lines since we had the census, and that's what we are trying to do now. So yes, we are behind, but I think that our city administrators have done a good job in trying to get it to us, and we know what all we've been through. So we at a point now where we're going to do these redistricting lines and according to what Mr. Sullivan said, her request, but I think everything is in those lines from what the city administrator have already done. However, to whatever her request is, that blowing up, you can get this map blown up where she can read it, or you can do it yourself. So we are behind, and I think because we are transit, we're going to have to go ahead on and do these lines and have the first reading and the second reading at the next time. That's just how I see it.
Ms. Miller, I try to make it a habit to agree with you on most things. But I will maybe push back against you and Mr. Lowry about one thing. It is not as if the census ended and the next afternoon we got this data.
Oh, no.
So
I'm a realist, I know that. But
so and honestly, because the timeline was such that the census occurred, it takes months and months and months for the Census Administration to compile the data and then get it to us. And then once we got the data, it takes time to come up with a proposed map. And then we held a census workshop. Ms. Sullivan, were you at that workshop?
I don't remember.
I don't believe that you were there. But we actually met with members of Fiscal Affairs and discussed some of the exact topics that you are raising tonight. And why things were and weren't possible to include in this map, specifically new developments which can't be counted. So then, at the point at which City Council met with each other in a workshop, and we were able to review sort of a first take on the map, we found ourselves in an election season. And I believe it is not the right thing to overly politicize a map like this. So we made the judgment call to hold this issue back until after the election. So it is not infused with any unnecessary political considerations.
No, nothing political, Mr. Mayor. I'm fine with the map as long as I have the same amount of people everyone else has. That's it.
Which is exactly the thing we discussed at that workshop.
Yeah.
I do agree with Alicia. I would like to see the data. I mean, we've had, and it's not knocking on the election, and it's just one of those things. It's nice to see. It's nice for everybody to see, okay, here's your population, everybody's population. We've all looked at these before. If you've been through this before, and some of us have been, and it's actually kind of interesting to look at too for the city and to see the populations in the different.
Administration has some that voted down as how many is in each. I mean, you can get that down.
Just understand that there's a margin of error. Like some people are going to be a little bit over, some people are a little bit under because you have to have that racial makeup.
I want to make sure everyone knows, to set the record straight, I am fine with the map as long as each council member have the same number of citizens that they represent. I don't care what it look like.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is it's not going to happen because of the racial makeup. You have to have, you want to make sure that you don't change the demographics of this district or this district. So that some people might be over, some people might be slightly under.
No, ma'am. The difficulty is, please understand, if this were an entirely in-house map, I can understand how you might have that consideration, but we specifically, intentionally took the City of Lawrence data and said, here, Department of Fiscal Affairs, make it comply with federal law. This is a 100% Columbia-generated document, not Lawrence-generated.
Right.
There are no political considerations on my part, city administrator's part, anybody here on city council. This was done specifically to comply with the federal laws that you are referencing.
Yes, sir, and I'm hoping that you're receiving that I am in agreement with that. And in addition to this current map, I would like to request a copy of our old map to see if there were any changes, and if it was, why? That's all. I just want to see the information so I can know. how we're growing, which way we're growing, the demographics. It's not wise to be a council member and not know who's in your
Respectfully,
district.
Ms. Sullivan, all that was discussed at the workshop that you didn't attend.
Mr. Mayor, this information, as an elected official, it is my responsibility to ask questions.
That is correct.
Secondly, it's not wise for me to vote on something and I don't have all the information.
That is correct.
Mr. Mayor, this information that I am requesting is so that I am fully informed of what I am voted on. Nothing to offend you or the remaining of the council. I think you guys do a great job. Please receive it as me wanting to learn and not to offend.
Ms. Sullivan, I appreciate that, but in future, I would ask that you show up at city council workshops.
Mr. Mayor, that is in the past. We're in the present. And as in the present, I'm asking you respectably that you will receive that I am trying to turn a corner here and wisely learn what's going on in my district as it relates to the demographics. Any changes proceeding. I understand that I wasn't there, but I promise you that there's members of council that's missed things as well that you don't bring to the public's attention. Please let that go.
Ms. Sullivan, the reason I'm bringing this to attention is because if there is a lack of information or understanding, it is not because you haven't had it available to you. It is because you chose not to take part in it. And if at any point, since the time you got this, since that redistricting workshop happened, or the time since you received this packet in today's meeting, you had any questions, you could have very well reached out to either the city administrator or myself or the city clerk, and we could have provided you all that information.
I'm glad you brought that into the awareness of the public, because I've been reaching out to the administrator and to our clerk and getting delayed responses from them from questions. And I have a copy that I would like to, a request that I would like to the council to receive regarding that, specifically the questions of payroll. I have been reaching out to our
You have your answer.
Madam Clerk.
Ms. Madison, this is the council's discussion, and it does not
Ms.
include.
Sullivan, I am the chair of this meeting, and I will call somebody out of order if I need to. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, sir, I'm sorry. Please forgive me for that. I didn't mean that. What I'm stating is that I went step 1, step 2, and step 3, those 3 things that you stated that I should do, and I have not received those information from either one of them in a timely manner.
You requested information about redistricting?
Yes, I have, in the past. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay.
So going forward, the information that I stated, I would like to be included in this process. As a council member, I can request it, and I would like to be included. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sullivan. Is there any further discussion? All right, hearing none, I call the question. All those in favor of approval on first reading, please indicate by saying aye. 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 Any opposed, no.
Nay.
And the vote is 6-1, with Ms. Sullivan dissenting. Okay. Moving on to the second item of new business, we have a budget for the city of Lawrence. This year's budget, which was developed on the part of city council at this year's budget workshop. And with the tremendous amount of work put into it by our city administrator, this budget reflects the priorities of council. It does not raise taxes. It keeps the city's millage the same. It is $10.3 million in total, with no millage increase. It fully funds all city departments with a balanced budget and provides competitive pay in each of our departments to make sure that we prioritize those hardworking people who serve the public through their positions at the city so that we maintain a competitive edge and retain the best and brightest employees. It also makes certain capital investments to keep us competitive with other agencies and to fight crime effectively, to deliver trash service and fire service in an effective manner, to provide for victims, to plan for growth and development in a way which is responsible and healthy and deliberate, to provide for recreational opportunities for not only our youth, but people of all ages of our community. So with that, I would entertain any motions concerning 5-23-02.
I move that we adopt it on the first reading on 5/23/02. And I must say that we are blessed. We are blessed. We are blessed.
Yes, ma'am, couldn't agree more. Is there a motion or is there a second?
A second.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, hearing none, I will call the question. All those in favor of passage of this year's budget, ordinance 5-2302 on first reading, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, no. And the budget has passed unanimously on first reading. That brings us to the end of tonight's public agenda. Seeing no further business on our agenda, I turn to our Mayor Pro Tem.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
And we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. No. We are adjourned. Thank you.